big swings.
Well, here it comes. Oh, my goodness. Oh, wow! In your life have you seen anything like that?
Big moments.
There it is! Adam Scott, a life changer.
All the news, all the views.
The career Grand Slam belongs to Corey Webb.
Welcome to the PGA Golf Club.
And welcome to the PGA Golf Club. Adam White with you as per normal on this Monday, and also as per normal, Brendon Goddard. BJ, good morning.
Whitey, welcome back.
Thank you very much. I did miss last week.
What were you doing last week?
I had a couple of days off.
Really?
First time since January.
A couple of days off playing golf.
I did play golf. That's 100% correct. I played at Shepparton on Friday. I love that golf course. And played Huntingdale Monday.
Oh, that
so
would
there
have
you
been
go.
a blast.
It was very good. It was very good. I'll talk to you more about why that was very good a little bit later on. But look, I'm rapt that we've got Sandy Jamieson in here, who is one of Australia's leading golf coaches. I want to talk to him a little bit about his career, his thoughts on golf, but also he has got a golf club with him. And he only has one golf club with him, which I'm absolutely fascinated about. Sandy, it's great that you could come in and be part of the PGA Golf Club.
Thanks for having me on board. It's a pleasure to be here. I listen all the time and looking forward to the chat.
Absolutely. Now, tell us a little bit about your career. For those that don't know you, and a lot will because you've been around golf for a long time, coach of a number of Australia's leading players, down at Commonwealth for a long time. Tell us a little bit about your career.
Oh, look, I'm a golf tragic like most PGA members. I grew up actually very fortunate when I started at Box Hill Golf Club when I was 13. Stephen Bann was the golf professional there. He was the new head professional. And I idolised Banny. I managed to caddy for him a bit and he taught me along the way. I don't think he thought I was ever going to be any good. And I sort of come along all right at golf, but coaching was my main forte. And like any PGA member, I started off coaching juniors and beginners and made my way up thinking that the ideal was to teach high-performance players. And I went sort of coached Andrew Shuden, for anyone who knows Shudes, who's now on the bag of Cam Davis on the PGA Tour. Had a good career himself. I then got the gig at the VIS as the assistant coach. Coached Jared Lyle. Actually, I was just looking out your window before in Royal Melbourne where I saw Jared out, which wasn't much fun a little while ago.
Yeah. And
then coached Robert Allenby as well. And from there, lived overseas, sort of chasing that, thinking that's what it was all about. And ended up back in Australia and coaching at Commonwealth Golf Club, of which I've just recently left. Very fond of Commonwealth, but recently left to start a new business, teaching beginners again.
Yeah, now we want to talk to you about
circle.
this.
Absolutely.
It absolutely is a full circle, 100% correct. Also, apart from Sandy being our co-host this morning, we're going to catch up with Josh Younger, who won the New South Wales Open yesterday in very dramatic circumstances. We'll hear a little bit of Mark Leishman, who I was fortunate enough to catch up with on the RSN Breakfast Club today. So he's got some interesting things to say, particularly about the Australian Open. He is doing that today at the MCG. I'll explain a bit that more further. But obviously, it's a big 2 weeks for him. Big 3 weeks when you throw in the PGA as well for Australian golf. But the Australian Open this week at the Australian, and then obviously next week the President's Cup. We'll catch up with Matt Kaminsky talking about the President's Cup. And a little bit later on, Stewart Cink is going to join us as our feature guest. And Stewart Cink is a Open Championship winner. He's also going to be playing in the PGA up on the Gold Coast in a couple of weeks' time. So to catch up with what's pretty impressive and pretty awesome, I think, to catch up with a major winner in Stewart Cink. Can you remember whose party he spoilt back in 2009? Putting you on the spot here, BJ. I know Sandy will know the answer to this. There was almost going to be one of the greatest wins in the history of major
Tom
championships.
Correct.
Yeah, but I was thinking Matty Goggin was thereabouts too.
He was.
At the same tournament.
Yep.
Yeah.
And what you would remember this probably better than me, Sandy, that Tom into the 18th hit the ball through the green and couldn't get up and down when he looked like he was going to win.
Yeah, absolutely. I was actually there at the start of the week with Robert Allenby.
Right.
But left towards the end of the week because I had to get tickets to go to Lords to watch the cricket. So I'll watch the finish in a corporate tent at Lords.
We were talking about that. Didn't Tom admit later on that he slightly thinned his...
Oh, he did,
7-iron?
absolutely. Yeah, no, yeah. He got nervous.
So he said that if I had hit it the way I wanted to, it was on a good line, that it would have held the green, it would have essentially two-putted and won the Open. But
Yeah.
he admitted later on that he caught it a hair thin and caught that little downslope at the front and released over the back.
There's a couple of crazy years where Greg Norman almost won, and then Patrick
Birkdale.
Harrington finished off in top. There's David Duval there, but the old timers, it was almost in consecutive years, Greg Norman and Tom Watson.
I think the British Open will let you do that though. Like if you look at the golf courses, especially those times when they're hard and fast, distance isn't such a big thing. It's a bit more about positioning. You know, the American golf, there's a lot of talk about the fact that it's just dartboard golf. We used to call it McDonald's golf because it tastes the same in every town. But you get to the British Open and you have to position your ball and you have to have a bit more nous about what you do. So, you know, those guys have come to the forefront.
So, as I said, Stewart Cink will be our feature guest a little bit later on. Sandy, I'm interested in life overseas when you are a coach as opposed to a player. Lucas Herbert was in here a couple of weeks ago talking about he got a real reality check this year, just how hard it is on the European tour when you're away from home, away from your creature comforts, to perform week in, week out and still enjoy yourself. What's it like for a coach where a lot of the time you're dependent on how well your player is playing and you haven't necessarily got control of the situation?
Oh, correct. Look, I think as a coach, you're travelling with the player if they've got their family with them. At night time, they want to spend time by their family, so you're sort of by yourself, which I'm quite happy with my own company. But absolutely, as a coach, as a high-performance player, you have to accept that there's a certain psyche of high-performance players that they have to take the accolades for the good stuff, and it's actually quite healthy for them to sort of pass off some of the bad stuff to their support staff. It just happens. So obviously you get that, and if you're a bit self-reflective and you're always looking to improve by thinking what could have I done better, it can get you down. Some of the tour coaches like Pete Cowan, who I was pretty matey with for a while there, Pete Cowan just calls more prima donnas, and you know he's got more tour player mentality than the tour players. And I think there's something in that.
Talking about prima donnas, did you see what Pablo Larrazabal did over the weekend?
This, yeah.
I've never seen anything like it. Now, admittedly, he has won the Alfred Dunhill at Leopard Creek overnight, but he's walking down the 9th, and I was sort of getting ready to go to bed, and I had it on the background, and he's walking down the 9th, hit a bad tee shot, he's ripped off his shoes and chucked them down the fairway and starts walking down the fairway in his socks.
And then
Well, Sergio chucked his shoe off one day too, didn't he? Like, it must be a Hispanic thing.
Well, it was crazy because he dropped about 6 or 7 shots on the front 9 to go from 3 in front to 4 down.
9 holes.
Yeah.
And then he hit that tee shot, and then the commentators are saying he must have blisters, and they're actually saying we should just play without shoes if it's that bad, just because he's, again, he stands up on the next tee shot after making bogey there on 9 or whatever it was, and then I didn't know a blister could affect your actual golf swing through your motion through the ball. So he
Which foot was it?
It was his big right toe.
So he got off his right side after he kind of hit it, and then stood back and he found the fairway. And I was like, this guy's kidding. And then wake up this morning and he's birdied 3 of the last 4 to win.
I was going to wake up and he'd had 82 or 84, and he's actually found a way to win because he changed his shoes at halfway.
Losing.
Yeah, it's funny. I actually used to have a punt on the golf when I was on tour, because you couldn't punt in America. But when you stay at the hotels, and Allenby was having a really good run, so he was always off late. So you'd sort of try and put your bedtime later, so you get up later and get yourself that way. So I'd be hanging out in the hotel, and you'd see all the players who had just made the cut, and you'd see the state they were coming home in and perhaps who they were coming home with. And I thought, well, so I'd get on the phone to my mate back in London where I was living at the time, and you could put a punt on the worst score in a group and so on. So I did all right that way.
That's Whitey's forte.
This is you're talking my language,
Yeah,
even though we shouldn't be talking about this sort of thing, perhaps. So, Sandy, tell us a little bit about working with Robert Allenby, because I find him an intriguing character, and I feel
He's very polarising.
He's polarising, but I feel he's been underappreciated with what he has achieved around the world, and particularly the fact he would always come back every year, play all the major tournaments here, and had that incredible year where he won all 3. I'm getting emotional talking about it. What was it like to work with him, and do we underappreciate what he was able to achieve?
Oh, absolutely. Look, Rob and I we go back a long way, and I'm forever grateful for the opportunity he gave me.
Was it junior day, Sandy?
Box Hill Golf Club.
Yep.
So we were there, and then
He was just playing. He was just a member.
Yeah, he was a member, and he was a bloody good one that we all measured ourselves against. So I thought I was never going to be a golf pro, because I thought, well, this was the standard. And there was another guy there, Jamie Taylor, at the same stage, who was awesome. Like, Jamie was better than Robert, and he moved to Europe to play and met a multi-millionaire and never played golf again. But look, Rob is underappreciated, and he's a competitor. You know, we're talking about the top line athletes and how they think when they cross the line. You know, the white line fever. Rob's got white line fever. He steps onto the golf course and he's always looking to win. And it's such a competitive thing, I guess, sometimes when he's interviewed, and journalists love him because they can get up there and they'll get something. You know, they'll bait him and you know, he falls for the traps at times. But I mean, what a play! Look at his record.
It is unbelievable.
I mean, even the years that I coached him, it wasn't. You know, he got up to a win at the end, sort of when we were parting ways. He won in South Africa, actually. He won what was the tournament just done.
Nedbank.
In Nedbank in 2010.
Yep.
But he had something like 26 top 10s on the PGA Tour in 3 years. And he was in contention 17 of those with 9 holes to go. I mean, that's an incredible run. I think he was sort of $2.5, $3.5 million a year without a win. I mean, that's pretty hard to do.
So when you're coaching someone like Robert Allenby, who had a unique swing, it was his own swing and his ball flight, I'll never forget his ball flight, the way he was able to manoeuvre the ball. What are you doing with him as a coach? Are you trying to change anything, or are you working with what he's got? Do you tinker? I'm really interested in your role when you're looking after someone, as I describe at the time, as a seasoned professional when you're in working with him.
Well, the first thing you have to identify is what sort of player they are. So, you know, there's people in America who confuse Allenby and Appleby. If you look at Stu's always looking for the next thing. Robert's always looking to get back what he had when he's out of form.
Yep.
And so that's really what I did with Robert when, because as I said, I had a bit to do with him. But we came into contact again when I was coaching Jared Lyle at the 06 British Open. And we played a practice round. I videoed some swings and I sort of had a look, and it didn't look like it used to look. And so we caught up here at the Aussie Masters at Huntingdale, and I showed him what I'd seen. And I said, mate, we just need to rekindle that. And so with Rob, it was just about getting him back to where he was when he swung at his best, because he'd gone off for various reasons over the years. So just trying to find his old form back.
That's interesting.
And what about his golf in general? Because I've heard stories as a junior, he was one of the best putters going around. Now he's had a lot of difficulties with his putters, but how did his game evolve from the Box Hill days, and what was his strengths?
Oh, look, he was the weakness. Every part of his game's strong, even his putting, and people sort of look at you funny, but I'll explain that. The weakness is his chipping. Always, his chipping's never been a strong part. Like, he'd always opt for the putter rather than the chipper. So what'll happen, people, for the listeners out there, you know, out to 3 feet, professionals hold just about everything. It's 98.1% or something. Then for every foot thereafter you go out, they drop 10%. So that means at 8 foot, you're a 50-50 chance.
Okay.
Best players in the world. Obviously, the number one player in the world at the time, I think when Jason Day was number one in the world, he was holding 63% of his 8-footers. So, you know, that 13% difference is what made him number one in the world. So with Robert, he hits the greens great, he putts it great, and we had this discussion. He said, I'm putting terribly. I said, Robert, how do you get in contention to win with 9 holes to go without putting any good? You've got to be putting good. But when he misses a green, he's chipping it, instead of chipping it inside that 3-foot range, he's chipping it anywhere sort of 5 to 10 feet away. And then people, when you're on television, people are seeing you miss those putts, a bit like Scotty. Adam Scott's the same. You know, Adam Scott's an incredible putter. And people bag him
There's a lot
out.
more opportunities inside 10 feet than most.
Oh, correct. So, and it's sort of the curse of the great ball striker. Like Greg Norman was the same. People said, "Oh, Greg Norman was a bad putter." I mean, anyone who's watched Greg Norman, he's an incredible putter. So that was Robert. Really, it was just the chipping around the ends. And when you look at final day pin placements, they tuck them away. So if you're aggressive going for the pins, you're going to miss greens. You know, if Robert just tried to hit 18 greens around, I'm sure he'd sort of. He would run in the sort of the 16 to 17 range, just try and hit 18, but he's not trying to hit greens, he's trying to hit close. So then you miss a green, and if you're lucky, it goes in a bunker because he's a great bunker player. But get a chip off the short stuff, not so good.
Yeah. I'll never forget the year that he won the 3 majors down here, and it was on 3 different golf courses. So he won on the links down at Moona. for the Australian Open. He won the Masters on the Sandbelt, and then he won the PGA at Coolum on the resort course. So 3 completely different golf courses, different environments, different grasses. He was able to do it. And I just think that will still go down as one of the great achievements, I think, in the last 30 years for one player to do that in the 1 year.
Oh, absolutely. And look, as I say, people see Robert for some of the stuff that gets reported and he goes after them. But if you look at his playing record, and then on top of that, you look at his charity stuff. So on the 16th of December, you got the Challenge Golf Day down at Peninsula this year. I mean, he's raised a huge amount of money for kids with cancer. So, yeah, look past some of the headlines and look at his record and look at what he does for kids in particular. And there's a really decent fella there.
So I've got a question for you. You worked at the VIS for a long time when a lot of the good Victorian players were coming through. Then we think of the likes of Mark Leishman, Marcus Fraser, etc. Who was the one that surprised you that went through at the time where you're at the Institute that you didn't think would necessarily go as well as they did, and then vice versa?
Okay. Well, actually, he can't go me for this anymore, unfortunately, but probably Jared Lyle. Like his brother Leighton was a hell of a player. I coached late as well. But, yeah, Jared was the guy who sort of just went about his business. He didn't look like he was doing anything special, but he just managed to get under the number that you needed every time. So Jared only a special player, but a competitor, good decision maker, and managed to get it done. Probably made a few bad decisions. He had a bad manager who made some bad decisions for him. Otherwise, I think he would have done a lot better than he did, even though he did well.
Okay.
So he was that one. The outstanding one you spoke to this morning.
Yeah.
Mark Leishman. I mean, yeah. I tell a story. If anyone who's been to the Melbourne Golf Academy, there's a chipping green up sort of behind where you hit golf balls. So you hit golf balls away from the chipping green, and there's a glass window, and you can see the chipping green from where you're hitting balls in the opposite direction, and there's a roof. We were practicing one day, and it was a gale. It was like a waste of time hitting balls. And the wind was so strong, I don't hit it far anyway, but I'm hitting 4 irons about 110. And Leash is sort of hitting balls, and he sort of looks at us, he goes, fellas, watch this. Back pin. He's looking through the window. And he pulls out 8 iron, and he hits the thing down the range, high sort of cutty thing. It catches the wind, goes up over the roof, and goes 10 foot from the flag. So it's gone behind him by about 30. I mean, and he called it. That's freaky. And Leash is a freak with that sort of stuff.
The Warrnambool coming out of him with the wind down at Warrnambool playing down there. That's a fascinating story. Before we get to the golf club that you've got there, which is... Have you seen it yet, BJ, the golf club?
I haven't seen it.
You have a look at it while I ask the next question to Sandy. Sandy Jamison's joined us as our co-host this week. Just your teaching philosophies, because I've only met you for the first time today, but I've always been really interested in your philosophies, and a lot of it is about keeping it pretty simple. So for those that are listening, we try and pride ourselves on being a show where people can learn something about being a better golfer by listening to the program. What are some of your philosophies?
Look, I suppose the number one thing is providing people can get to you for a golf lesson, they're not stupid. So number one, they've got the coordination to get up, put their clothes on, get in the car or whatever it is, and get down to you for a golf lesson so that they can function. It's giving less information and allowing them to learn rather than trying to teach some sort of mantra. So usually the things that will stop people from playing well, hitting a golf shot well, it's usually a misinterpretation of information that they think they've heard, or they've tried to perhaps progress faster than they should. And the role of a golf coach, in my belief, is to make things simple and to guide them sort of more as a mentor role to help them learn in the best way they can.
Yep.
Rather than sort of, I've always said I'll never ever write a golf book because, you're going to pick it up and you're going to try and interpret what I'm saying in written word. And that's really dangerous. I had a priest once say to me, I coach all sorts of people, coach his priest. And he said, he came in one day, he's a great bloke. He actually married me and my wife, and he came in with a milk crate full of golf books. He said, used expletives, you can have these books. He says, I've got no chance. Oh, Terry, why is that? Terry Bergen, his name is. And why is that, Terry? He said, well, my job's out of one book. And he said, there's hundreds of different interpretations and religions who run around the world trying to interpret that book. So I suppose that's it. It's more, I'm a concept guy, and I just want to try and help people understand the concept of the game rather than teach it.
Yep. No, it makes perfect sense. So you've got a golf club in your hands, BJ. Now I want you, Sandy, to talk what you were saying to me before. Ask the same questions.
Oh, BJ, what do you notice different about the club?
That it's got a typical putter grip.
It's got a putter grip on it.
Very good, BJ.
Yes.
Very good.
What about the club head?
Jeez.
It's oversized.
Yeah.
It's got a grind out of the back of the bit of relief off the back of the club.
What number's on the bottom?
It's got a target. There's no number.
Yeah.
There's a sight target in the middle of the club.
Yeah, circle for the sweet spot in the middle.
For the sweet spot. And it's branded One Club Golf.
Yeah. So the idea of this is, I think we've put a lot of hurdles in the way of people learning golf.
Yep.
So I think that for people who if you said, okay, I want to learn how to play golf, what would you do, BJ? For one of your mates, what would you say? What do you need to do?
Learn how to play golf.
So
I'd just say go and play golf to start with.
Well, you're on my team. That's great, because a lot of people will say, I'm going to need to go and do some clinics, and so they go and they'll do a clinic and they'll 5 weeks, and they've got to commit to 5 weeks in a row or commit to something. I'm more along the lines that golf, easy, fun, and affordable. I can have someone who's never played golf before out on the course in 15 minutes playing. So taking away some of the choices they have to make. So I just use this one club. So it's sort of a long iron loft. It's about a 9-iron length. So for the listeners, you've got two angles that are on a club head. The loft, which puts the ball in the air, and then the angle the shaft comes out of the club to allow it to sit flat on the ground is called the lie angle. So the lie angle of this club is like a short iron. And way back when I did my PGA apprenticeship, we learnt that the shorter you make a golf club, the easier it is to hit the middle of it, as well as weight comes in there too. So, and also the straighter the face, for those who know smash factor, smash factor is a little equation for how fast the ball comes off the face compared to how fast the club goes. So with a straighter face club, if you hit it in the middle, the ball will come off sort of 1.3 times faster than you hit it. So I'm after the shot euphoria. So when the beginner gets out there and they hit one in the middle of the face, if you do it with a straighter face club, it feels better and they get hooked quicker. Plus you can putt with this thing too. So they don't even use a putter. They're just learning to hit the ball in the middle of the face, so they're not thinking about how do I hit 5 different clubs. And for the beginner, you know what, it doesn't matter anyway, because unless you hit the ball in the middle of the face, a 9-iron doesn't fly like a 9-iron, and a 7-iron doesn't fly like a 7-iron, and a 4-iron doesn't fly like a 4-iron. It's just about teaching them to control the ball, keep it in front of them. Effectively, when I coach people, and I got a group of Chinese people yesterday, I've got someone who helps me in Mandarin and Cantonese, and I tell them there's 4 things we're trying to do. We're trying to make sure we're safe, no one gets hurt. We're going to look.
That can be a challenge.
Yeah. Well, it can be. Haven't lost one yet. So safe. We're going to talk about looking after the golf course, speed of play. So my thing in the golf industry, we need to get people on the golf course because they need to pay their way. So I can't have people stopping us to take selfies every time they hit a golf shot. And the last one's hit the ball, and I say hit the ball's easy. So, you know, if you're hitting it 5 metres in front of you, 10 metres in front of you, 30 metres in front of you, that's fine as long as you can control it. I really don't care how far you hit it. We just get around the course.
And so has this been, I know it has been, but has this been successful in its early stages?
Absolutely. Not a single fail. I'm learning all the time. Like my definition of a good golfer is someone who can play 9 holes of golf in 2 hours or less without affecting anybody else by their attitude or the way they play. Yeah, and BJ, you'd be with that. Like if you play golf with someone, it doesn't really matter if they have a heap of shots, as long as their attitude's good and you're not waiting for them all day.
Good company and they're respectful and
correct.
Yeah, it's easier.
Correct. And so as a PGA pro, I hinted at this a while ago. I thought, you know what, I've been trying to teach people how to hit the ball perfectly, you know, for a long time. You take someone out there with no pretense, and I always demonstrate first, and I hit the first shot about 10 metres tops. I don't stand there and hit a full shot. And I watch them top it along the ground, and the biggest smile comes up on their face. And traditionally, we'd be saying trying to help them, but they really enjoyed that. And so I give no feedback except hit the ball in the circle, in the middle of the club face, have the face pointing where you want to go, and sort of 15, 20 minutes in, they're starting to hit good golf shots, and I've done nothing except sort of introduce them to playing.
So for those that want to get involved in this and to get one of these, how do they do it?
Okay, I've got a website which is pretty basic, but there's online bookings and stuff coming shortly. It's one club, as in number one, club.golf.
Right.
And it's only when I say one club, it's you got the one length. So say my daughter's just started hitting golf balls, so it's one length.
Oh, like anything, it's built around being a 9-iron length. So if your daughter came...
For an adult or teenager.
Yeah, I could make the club specific to her length.
Okay.
And the idea is, again, easy, fun, affordable. All it costs to play golf with this. If you want to buy it, it's $39.95.
Right.
If you want to hire it, when you go out, it's $5.
Yep.
So what I've been trying to do is fill the public courses again, because the numbers are down. 20 years ago when PGA pros ran the places and got a sort of percentage of the income, the courses that I'm at, you used to do 40,000 rounds a year at Oakley Public. It's down to 17,000. Glen Waverley used to do over 100,000 rounds. It's down to mid-40s. So I'm a big believer that PGA pros, when they've got a vested interest in driving numbers, can do it. And that's what I'm going to try and do, is turn it back around. And I think some trends in golf, with golf clubs that are struggling, in the future will go back to having PGA pros retained to grow the business. And that's the way pros have always been. Back in the history in Australia, the clubs would go over to the UK to find good pros to grow their club. So, BJ, you're at Metro?
Yep.
They went and got Brian Twite.
Yeah.
And Twitey grew the business of Metropolitan Golf Club. He became Metro. Clubs, and I sort of probably understand why they did it. They took the shops over to try and, in their eyes, improve the service or get some of the revenue out of that, because they thought the pro was making too much. But I think they paid the price. And so the model I'm on now, my payment goes if I can grow the numbers of golf. So if I don't grow Oakley, and if one club doesn't work, I'll be checking your ticket on the bus next time you jump on in a year or so's time. So it's time for the PGA pros to sort of make a mark again.
Well, I've had a go of it out in the office, and it feels good. It feels easy to hit, if that makes any sense. And I think that's always a good starting point. It's almost like getting a good cricket bat. If you pick it up and it feels good, you have the confidence that you're going to hit the ball well. And I think this is the same with this particular golf club.
It does feel good. You have to come out for a hit sometime. You're both welcome.
Absolutely.
Bring your daughter.
Absolutely. I've got two boys that would be very interested in that. So that website again?
One club, as in number one,
Yep.
club.golf.
All right.
GOLF, not .com, .golf.
Oneclub.golf. Now, the great thing is you're going to stick around and be part of the show. We've got Josh Younger about to join us. As I said, Matt Kaminsky from the President's Cup, and also a little bit later on a feature interview with Stewart Cink. So there's a lot to talk about, and we've also got to talk about Jason Day, who is not coming for either the Australian Open or the President's Cup. It is the PGA Golf Club. I hope you're enjoying the program. We'll be back with more after this.
Everything you want to know about Aussie golf is in one place. PGA.org.au. This is the official site of the PGA of Australia. It's the one website loaded with all the tournament, course and player news. That includes the latest on the ISPS Hander PGA Tour of Australasia. The Find a PGA Pro directory will track down the pros near you. And here's where you can live stream golf's best on PGA TV, watching tournaments live, streaming replays, or watching the latest reports on Aussie golfers around the world. There are even video tips from the pros. So if golf's your game, this is your site. PGA.org.au from the Professional Golfers Association of Australia. Driving Australian golf since 1911.
And welcome back to the PGA Golf Club. You're with Adam White, Brendon Goddard and Sandy Jamieson this week. Well, it was a dramatic finish to the New South Wales Open. There's about 4 or 5 that could have potentially won in the last sort of half hour or so of golf. But the one that did win was Josh Younger, and he joins us now on the program. Josh, congratulations, New South Wales Open champion.
Cheers, boys. Thank you.
Now, you certainly did it in dramatic circumstances. How were the nerves in the last sort of, in regulation towards the end, then also obviously in the playoff where you won?
Yeah, I suppose if you look, I didn't actually know how I sort of stood pretty much all day, and when I think I was 3 under for the day, and then I sort of thought, well, it sort of might be thereabouts, and then then on 18 I tried to hit driver and probably just tried to turn it a bit more than probably needed to. And
so you're one ahead at this point, Joshy?
Yeah. Well, I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Right.
So no leaderboards?
No, there wasn't. Obviously,
There's only someone in the group with the group leaderboard, right? Or your scores?
No, there wasn't even that.
Oh.
No.
I thought I saw that on Twitter.
Yeah, we had, obviously there was a live, a volunteer doing the live scoring, but obviously the spectators would have known if been on the PGA app. But yeah, we had no leaderboard at all. So it was sort of, I sort of thought, well, I'm at 3 under for the day, and then the guys behind, I was 1 behind them starting the day, so I was sort of, and it was a sort of tough day, but and then 18 sort of unfolded, and I was like, wow.
What would have changed if you had known that you got a 1-shot lead?
No, a few people asked me that last night. No, I still would have hit the shot I hit, but I wouldn't have changed the way I played the last. It was just the way it played. Obviously, I took driver because the wind was into us, and driver could have got to the fairway bunker, and so I just tried to turn it a bit more anyway. Yeah, sort of come across it, and it hit the tree sort of, I don't know, about 150 off the tee, and then ricocheted into the hazard, and it was just like, oh wow, surely this ain't happening. But sort of, I managed to, I think I made 6, and then got in the scorer's hut, and they sort of said, it's pretty close, and watched the last group come down, and then Trav made par, and then we're sort of in the playoff. So,
how much delay between that and the playoff, mate?
So that was the last group, so it was probably 10, 15 minutes. Yeah, it wasn't too bad, and I was just sort of talking to a couple of the boys, and then sort of watched them finish, and then, Trav obviously made par, and then they were like, all right, we'll go back to 18, and we'll have a go at it.
And then take us through the playoff. What's your playoff record, particularly? Have you been in playoff in a Tier 1?
Yeah, at the New Zealand PGA, I think it was about 3 years ago, I lost to Jared Felton. So that was a 3-man playoff. That only went 1 hole, he made birdie, and so it was like, all right, well, we sort of done that. Graham Scott, there was the rules official, he sort of threw the coin up, and I end up going first, and then I end up hitting 3-wood in the playoff. That's sort of.
Yeah, I was going to ask that. How do you approach that tee shot the second time?
Yeah, I mean, you're nervous, but it's the way you think of it. Well, as nervous as I am, you got to think that Trav's just as nervous. So, hit 3-wood, just a nice little draw up there. The wind rode it, and then in the first one, I was sort of in between clubs because it was hard to guess the wind. And anyway, I've gone one more, and I probably hit it to about 40, 50 feet, and I think Trav hit it to about 30 feet past. I was past as well, and then I rolled it down. Well, hit a putt down, and then it was about 10 feet, but it went across the hole. So at least I had probably the best putt on the green, which was back straight up the hill. And I made that, and then Trav had about a 5-footer. He made that, and then we went again, hit 3-wood, and then I had wedge in, and probably the best shot I reckon I've ever hit. Landed about 5 foot short, and then finished about 6 feet, sort of back up the hill, and lucky enough, and the putt went in.
I love the fact you were celebrating before the ball actually went into the hole as well. That was
Kevin Na.
Sometimes the early crow can be a little bit of an issue, Josh.
You walk in Kevin Na style.
Yeah, the greens are. They're some of the best greens I reckon I've ever putted on. So, you sort of, if you hit a putt, and I sort of knew it was just, it was probably breaking about an inch, sort of left and right, and sort of as soon as I hit it, I'm like, you can sort of tell that it was going in, and it sort of all emotion got to me.
Fantastic.
So what does it mean to you, Josh? I mean, to win an event of that magnitude, we know that it gives you playing rights, it obviously gives you a good check and all those sorts of things. You've got close before, you nearly won an Australian Masters, so you've been thereabouts, but to actually win, what does that do to your life?
I think it's probably just a relief, as in, you've sort of, I've been at it for 10 years and, it's so bloody hard to win. Like, that's, each week there's 140, 50 guys that are, you can have your best week and someone just has a better week. And, and I mean, you sort of look at it, everyone gets judged by, how much they win. But, it was just, a relief to sort of, finally get over that one and sort of, it hasn't sunk in, to be honest. Like, it's the morning after, but...
And you're straight into a US Australian Open prep.
Yeah, pretty much. So, sort of head down to the Aussie later on today, and then, you sort of, you move on to the next week.
Back into it. Hey, Josh, just a question, mate. Anyone I've ever coached who's won something, they've always said to me after winning their first event that a weight came off because they suddenly realised they could make mistakes and still win. Do you sort of feel that, or you haven't had time to process yet?
I probably haven't, had time to process it, but I mean, as I've obviously played well, but just mentally, it's probably the best week I've ever had. And just being, I think that's sort of probably the difference. Sometimes, everyone can play. You go to the practice fairway on Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and everyone can hit the ball, as good as, as everyone. But I think, your best weeks are probably when you're on mentally and able to just sort of, it's a long week and just sort of be able to, to keep in the moment and, stick to the process.
So as we let you go, what happens now? You got the Australian Open, and then there's the PGA in a couple of weeks. Does it change your hopes with your golf? Is it too early to sort of sit down and contemplate those sorts of things? What happens now? Before this week, this year's been pretty average, to be honest. Last year was a solid year. I've had sort of conditional status this year in Asia, but I haven't played good enough, so I'll have to go back to Q school. I had to go at Europe a couple of months ago, bombed out there. So, at least I think it might be 2 or 3 years exemption on the Aussie tour. So, probably definitely gives me a chance to sort of go chase something else overseas. So, I'll give Asia a go. I think that's in early next year. So, give that a go, and then obviously the other ones sort of fall in the end of the year. So,
well, mate, it's a decent check. So if you follow it up in the next few weeks, the top couple on the Aussie Order of Merit do all right too. So,
that's I think a few years ago I was able to get the Dunhill without of finishing high up. So and then obviously you get through stages at Q school. So that's a good perk if you can, follow up the next couple of weeks.
It's a great result, Josh, and I know that even just watching social media, there's a lot of people that are really happy for you, and I wonder whether that gives you a lot of confidence as well to have that win and see so much love for you out there. That I reckon that'd be pretty cool too.
Yeah, no, I mean, it's, I was just sort of trying to catch up on my phone, obviously this morning, and it's great when, that many people are wishing you well, and, it's sort of, it's a good feeling.
Sensational, Josh. Congratulations on the win. Good luck this week at the Australian for the Australian Open, and who knows, you can get that ball rolling like you did last week. Anything's possible.
Yeah, cheers. Thanks, guys.
Josh Younger joining us, the New South Wales Open champion. We're going to switch focus a little bit next. Not going to talk to a golfer. We're going to talk to someone that's putting together the President's Cup. That's next on the PGA Golf Club.
RSN Podcasts, all your favourite RSN shows, and loads of new programs.
You can listen or download wherever, whenever.
And now we're on iHeartRadio, the world's #1 radio and podcast app.
RSN Podcasts on Spotify, iTunes, Google Podcasts, and at rsn.net.au. And now on iHeartRadio. It's free at your app store or head to iHeart.com.
And welcome back to the PGA Golf Club. Adam White, Brendon, Goddard and Sandy Jamieson with you. It is Australian Open week, which is always very exciting, but that also means that the President's Cup is only a week away. So pretty much this time next week, the players will be getting ready at Royal Melbourne, if they haven't already, to get ready for the President's Cup. Matt Kaminsky has, he's so important when it comes to getting ready for the President's Cup. He is the Vice President and Executive Director of the President's Cup, and he joins us. It's been a busy time. Matt, thanks very much for joining us.
Thanks for having me on.
Are you ready?
We're getting there. We'll be ready. I guess we'll have to be ready, but no, we're getting there.
It's not convincing, Matty. We're a week away.
No, everything's coming along really well. We're all set to be ready by this Friday to welcome everybody over the weekend.
So we've had a bit to do with you in the build-up to the President's Cup, but how long does it take to get this thing ready? How far back are you looking when it comes to something of this magnitude?
Well, when you think about it, we announced the event returning to Melbourne at the 2015 President's Cup in October of that year when we were in Korea. And that's when we announced it, so we started planning at that point. We did have 2 World Cups, I guess, since then that came in advance of that, but really I moved down here at the beginning of 2018 to get ready for the World Cup and the President's Cup full stop. So, really started in 2015, but when it comes to having folks on the ground, it was really beginning of 2018 to get it sold and stuff. But from a build perspective out here at the golf course, I think we started right at the beginning of October. So about a 60-day window in a sense, a little over 60 days to build the site and get it ready for everybody coming out. We don't have the luxury of a set venue with grandstands and things like that. That you have when you host an event at a stadium, or we have to create it. So all those experiences and amenities that people need on site, whether it's restrooms, grandstands, video boards, marquee tents for hospitality, that all has to be done. So it takes a bit of time, but the planning and everything around that. But we've got a great team, and it's moving along. Brendon, you guys just saw it when you were out here just last week. I think it's coming along really well, and a lot has been done in the last week as well. So it's going to be really impressive, and I think people are going to have a great time. Yeah,
it's incredible, really, knowing the golf course or what it is, say every day of the week, and now come President's Cup, and what you guys do and what you're able to do is extraordinary. But you were, so my memory serves me correct, Matt, and we chatted about it a couple of weeks ago, but you were here for the last President's Cup as well?
I was, yeah. I was here in 2011, and that would have been my first one as executive director when I moved down here in 2010 and did the event for 2 years then.
And for all footy followers, Matt's a Saints man, and you didn't have a choice of choosing the Saints. I think you told me, mate.
No, I didn't have a choice. And actually, you guys were fantastic at that. It came down, lost in the grand final, obviously, that first year, but and then the rematch. Or tied and then lost, but sorry to bring back memories.
Slim picking since. So, but what about...
Paul Rack, who was the general manager here at the
club,
it's
Paul,
long time, and before I even moved down here, he sent me a St. Kilda kit and said, "You're going to be a Saint." I said, "Okay."
Good. And so, what about the challenges? You obviously had been here, you're familiar with the place only 8 years ago. But what are some of the biggest challenges when you're trying to organise such an event?
Well, everybody. It's funny to say, "Oh, you were here before, so it must be real easy. You just plug and play and just go." But that was 8 years ago, and a lot has changed in 8 years. When you look at it's a very competitive landscape from a sporting perspective. So, selling the event is not as easy as it would have been. Not to say it was easy in 2010, but there's a lot more going on. Obviously the population has grown, and with that, a lot of things grow with it. And there's golf is in a different space than probably what it was in 2011. You don't have a consistent event here in Melbourne year in, year out. So people look to do different things rather than going to a golf event. So luckily we've got an amazing event and amazing players and the best in the world and 2 amazing captains. So that's helped. But, it is a competitive landscape here, and those are things that have challenges from that standpoint. They're building across the road at Sandringham. So the property that we've had or that we have to deal with here at Royal Melbourne, I can tell you right now that because of the sheer size of this event, there's not many places in Australia, if any, other than Royal Melbourne, that could probably host a President's Cup, an event of this size and magnitude, having the east and the west golf courses to work with, but also having Sandringham across the way. But with that, it's not the same Sandringham and the same Royal Melbourne that we had in 2011 either, when they redesigned the driving range, and we had to extend the net here to accommodate the players that are going to come and play here in our public village. Now across the road at Sandringham, it takes away some parking, and they've redeveloped Sandringham. So those are every site's different, and Royal Melbourne's different this time around as well. So those are all operational challenges, but people look to do different things too. So they're not always focused on golf events and being in this. What's great about when we're playing here this year in December versus when we were here in November in 2011, I think we kind of have clear air. But from a sporting perspective, there is some test matches going on, and I think Perth at the time, but next week. But really, from a competitive landscape here and sporting events that are happening, we're in a good spot. So that's good. So that challenge is kind of removed from what it was the last time. But no, it's there's challenges every time, but you just work with them and try to do the best you can.
So Matt, I'm interested. Last time the Americans came out, they used Bruce Green to walk around the golf course and get a bit of a feel for Royal Melbourne. Do you think they'll be doing that again, or is Tiger on top of it?
I think that Brucey will be out here obviously, but I think a lot of these guys know the golf course pretty well. When you look at the international side, Ernie's got the course record on the composite course. You got Adam, who's probably played here 50 to 60 times in his lifetime. You got Jeff, who grew up right around the corner. So those guys on the international side are going to come in with a lot of knowledge. And then on the U.S. side, Tiger, Freddie, a lot of those guys that are on that team. There are a lot of guys that have never been here, but Tiger's got a great knowledge of and holds the sand belt and Royal Melbourne particularly at the highest standard of golf. It's what he kind of models his design features off of is when he talks about the sand belt and these courses down here, and Royal Melbourne being one of those. So he understands the golf course pretty well, and I think they're going to be leaning on everything they can because they both want to win. So I'm sure they'll be asking everybody, but and Bruce might be one of them.
Tiger, the fact he's playing, I mean, that wasn't in the plans when you first started looking at this event. How much of a difference do you think it is going to make that he's playing? No, it's not. It's what's funny. Even when we first announced the event coming here, and it was Tiger that reached out to us to be captain. We never thought in a million years that it would be this soon. But literally shortly, a week to 10 days after the President's Cup at Liberty National in New Jersey, he called our commissioner and said, "Hey, how about me?" And that was a great thing. And
brave man to say no.
That would have taken a lot to say no, but I think we welcomed it obviously, and having these two guys, Ernie and Tiger, two guys that over the last 20 years have had probably two of the best careers and most competitive careers against each other. How many majors would Ernie have won if it wasn't for Tiger? When you go against that, and then really those two guys are the two guys that every one of these guys that are playing for these captains probably started playing golf because of one of those two men, in Ernie and Tiger. So that's pretty exciting, But from Tiger's perspective, when he named himself as captain, the first question he had, or when he asked to be captain, and I think when one of his first questions as he started playing better, after he 2017, we announced him in that spring of 18. He ended up winning the Tour Championship, came around and won. After that Tour Championship, it was like, okay, what about me being the playing captain? He asked that question, has there ever been one? And the answer is Hale Irwin in 1994 in the initial President's Cup and inaugural President's Cup. He was playing captain. He said, okay, I want to be a playing captain. And so that's been his goal since probably, I guess it would have been December of 2018, but after he won the Tour Championship in 2018. So it's been a goal of his. A lot of people thought after he won the Augusta it was a shoe-in. Then he didn't play very much, and then obviously he solidified it when he won Zozo just a couple weeks ago. So, there's a time there where we didn't think it was going to happen, but when he won at Zozo, I think it was pretty much a guaranteed. And then for him to pick himself in the third person, that was great. So when he did that.
So, Matt, Melbourne's going into a frenzy because it's probably as you said, we haven't got a permanent event down here. Possibly the last time we'll see Tiger. Have you got any tickets left? And if not, how's your security? Because it's a big fence to secure, mate. There might be a few people jumping over.
Jumping over the fence. No, we're not at that point yet. People don't have to jump the fence. We still have tickets available, so you can go to presidentcup.com to do that. But they're available for all days. We're getting very busy. We're getting a lot of days that are our Friday, Saturday, and Sunday days are filling up pretty quickly. But we do have tickets available and ready for anybody that wants to come out. And it's going to be the competition is going to be unbelievable. Everything on the golf course, the best players in the world, and obviously Tiger Woods, as you said. It could possibly be his. I definitely can say it's probably his last time he's going to be playing in the President's Cup down here. I can't, even if we come back in 8 years, I don't foresee him being on that President's Cup team, or at least playing at the level that he's playing at right now. But look, even if you're not a golf fan, you're going to want to come out here and just witness these best players in the world, come out and just experience everything that happens outside of the golf course, whether it's come and see the Gwen pop-up restaurant, Curtis Stone's pop-up restaurant in the Village, experience the bands that will be playing during the time in our fan village, and now there's just a lot going on for people that aren't even sports fans or golf fans.
And just finally, Matt, can you comprehend that there isn't an event in Melbourne on the Sandbelt every year? I mean, Sandy just mentioned it then, and I couldn't agree with him more. It doesn't seem logical that it doesn't happen, considering everyone loves playing the Sandbelt. Can you put your finger on why it doesn't happen on a more regular basis?
Yeah, I mean, you had the Masters for a number of years here, and I think it was in 2015 was the last year that it was here. And the Australian Open is coming back next year, and then in 2022 as well. So there will be adding to that. But yeah, it's a shame. I guess. It is hard to find the dates that work and sponsors that work and things like that to fund these events down here. So not to say that it won't happen, but and I hope it does. But it is hard to believe, just because the Sandbelt, this collection of these golf courses here in Melbourne are like, there's no place in the world that's like it. Really, I can't think of any place that has eight golf courses that were either designed by or influenced in the design by Alistair McKenzie, and to be all within about a 20 to 30 kilometer radius of and that much distance from the CBD is amazing. So it's hopefully it does happen at some point. That you get an event up and running on a consistent basis year in, year out. But who knows? It is a shame, just because the Sandbelt is such a all of them are great. Kingston Heath, Metropolitan, Royal Melbourne. They're all amazing.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I know that BJ and I, we were both down there last week and got to play there and to see all the grandstands up. It actually took me back to the Bicentennial Classic. Just the amount of the magnitude of the grandstands. I remember for that particular tournament as a young kid, it just makes the place look even more special. So I can only imagine when those grandstands are full of people, the atmosphere it's going to be created next week. It's super exciting. Thank you for joining us, and congratulations for all the hard work you've done, because there's no doubt it's going to be a big success.
We look forward to having you guys back out here, and thank you so much for your support. And just encourage everybody to come out, because it's an event that you're not going to want to miss.
Thanks, Matt.
Thanks, guys.
Matt Kaminsky joining us. So the President's Cup to get underway next week, but of course it is the Australian Open this week. BJ, before we go to a break and Stewart Cink will join us, Jason Day's not playing at the Australian Open or the President's Cup. As a golf fan, how disappointing is that for you, and what was your initial reaction?
It's very disappointing. One, because another chance, or a lost opportunity for another Aussie to compete President's Cup. at Royal Melbourne, which Jace has won before, won the World Cup.
Yep.
So performs really well at, or has done. And my initial reaction, I think it was the same as everyone else, was a bit of not again kind of stuff. So I think most golfing fans understand, I guess, the kind of reluctancy from Jace to come back to Australia and play golf in Australia, and saying that he has done it before, but because the fans want to see Jace. I think Melbourne hasn't seen him since his World Cup, and admittedly there hasn't been too many events down here.
No.
But they want to see the best players in the world. And they want to see the best Australians, and Jace is clearly one of those. So it was a bit disappointing that it's kind of happened again, and now people are questions all over social media about, geez, he's injured a lot, the timing of his injuries, particularly when it is around the summer of golf in Australia. So it was disappointing because I think we all, as golfing fans, want to see him, and we want to see the best Australian golfers, but as I'm alluding to, in particular, want to see him.
We'll explore it more. I agree with you 100%, by the way, but we'll explore it more next week on the program. But I just wonder, now there are only 3 Australians, and they're 3 very popular Australians. They're 3? Just trying to count.
Scotty, Cam Smith,
yes,
Leash.
Of course. Yeah, so there's 3. How much of it is actually going to be to go and barrack for the internationals, and how much of it is actually just going to watch the Americans play because we don't get to see them play very often?
Well,
because I know from my point of view, I'm going because I want to see Justin Thomas. I want to see Dustin Johnson
why are you going?
just play live. I don't care who wins. So for me, it's more about just seeing them play. I mean, if I get to see Dustin Johnson go around at 6 or 7 under, or see Dustin Johnson,
a team event, but
yeah, well, you know what I mean. Like make lots of birdies, hit the ball really far.
But you see, the most appealing thing for me too is to see the world's best play on a golf course that sound like a snob, but can play regularly and know the course really well, know how difficult it is.
But the result's irrelevant to me.
Yeah, and it's not for me because it's probably because I spent so much time in America. I know what the Americans are like.
Yeah, well, that's true too. That's true too.
Anytime
That's
you
true.
can
That's
beat
fair.
an American team internationally or in whatever sports, it's a pleasure. So, but I think most golf purists are going to think like us too. That they're there just to watch and appreciate the best golfers in the world. So it's team presence v Americans.
Tiger's a perfect example of that.
Yeah, exactly. So to go see Tiger again, which what was it, like 6-7 years ago? You probably never think you'd be back in Australia after what happened last time.
That was 10 years ago.
10 years ago. There you go.
Amazing, isn't it?
10 years ago.
10 years ago.
Never think that he'd be back in he is on a course we all love, and I said a lot of us know well. It's going to be a great spectacle. So I'm just praying that it's good weather. And when I say good weather, it's typical Australian summer or late spring, early summer weather. Sunny, windy. There's some northerlies. There's a southerly thrown in there. A southwesterly. Changing conditions that is going to make the golf even better and more interesting. All
right, we'll take a break. Stewart Cink will join us next. Our feature interview, the former Open champion and also heading for the PGA.
Everything you want to know about Aussie golf is in one place. PGA.org.au. This is the official site of the PGA of Australia. It's the one website loaded with all the tournament, course and player news. That includes the latest on the ISPS Hander PGA Tour of Australasia. The Find a PGA Pro directory will track down the pros near you. And here's where you can live stream golf's best on PGA TV, watching tournaments live, streaming replays, or watching the latest reports on Aussie golfers around the world. There are even video tips from the pros. So if golf's your game, this is your site. PGA.org.au from the Professional Golfers Association of Australia. Driving Australian golf since 1911.
And welcome back to the PGA Golf Club. This is the chat that we've been really looking forward to with Stewart Cink, a former major winner, winning the British Open back in 2009. And the good news is he's coming to Australia to play in the PGA Championship on the Gold Coast. And he joins us now. Stewart, thanks very much for your time.
Yeah, no problem at all. Looking forward to being on with you guys.
So how did it come about that you were going to tee it up in the PGA Championship here in Australia?
Well, it's actually a year in the making or more, because I was briefly scheduled to play last year, but we had some things that came up with my wife on her side. She's in, kind of an ongoing medical, and that prevented us from making the trip. So it didn't work out. It's something that I've done. I've come down for events over the years a few times, not too many, a handful. But my wife has never been. She's always wanted to go, and it's kind of been a bucket list thing for her to make the trip down and see some different parts of the world. And so this year we decided to make it happen.
So we've seen you down here on the Sandbelt, but have you played before up on the Gold Coast?
I have. I played in the PGA one time. It was 16 years ago, 2003.
Right. Cool one, was it?
In fact, it was the last time I was down. Last time I was down at Coolum, correct. And my buddy came down with me, and I was caddied for me, and we had a good time. And it's been a while since I came back. I played in the match play when it was down at Metro. And so I'm looking forward to being back. We're going to swing by New Zealand on the way in for a little sightseeing for 3 or 4 days, and then come up to the PGA.
Well, the great news is you're playing very well at the moment. You've had some good results in recent times, so you're coming with a bit of form.
Yeah, I've been on an injury this year. This is about 3 months with a back injury. And so at 46 years old, it's the first time I've ever had an injury that prevented me from playing in tournaments. So I was really proud of being able to say I never had an injury. I can't say that anymore. So but I'm on the other side of that now. It's getting better. And I had to make some changes in my golf swing to accommodate for it and take some of the pressure off my lower back. And, these things develop over time, where you don't really know when you're making changes and trying to get better at what you're doing that it might have a negative impact. And then when the impact comes, you look back and say, what did I do? And you have to identify some things to change. And that's what my coach and I had some help with my PTs. And we made some changes in my golf swing, and it turned out that it was probably going to be a good thing in the long run that I had to do that, because I'd gotten a little bit non-conventional with some of my golf, and in an effort to try to do some of the modern things that TrackMan tells you to do, such as sit up on the ball. And I just got a little bit non-conventional with my weight shift, and it was adding a little bit of extra pressure around impact and after impact on my the lower part of my back, especially on just on the sides of my spine in the muscle area. And so I had to make the change and just basically got a little bit more conventional, which in golf, as we know, in the long run is usually not a bad thing to stay in the fundamentals. And it's been a good thing. The golf ball has liked it, and it's been fun to play again. And I'm pretty much pain-free when I'm playing and practicing, which is also really great news.
So, Stewart, are you saying you've gone back more to what you were doing trying to chase the numbers on the TrackMan?
Not exactly, because I was still a little bit non-conventional then. I just had a little hang back on my right side around impact and a little after, where I think I was trying to hit the ball a little bit higher. I was trying to be a little too deep with my shoulders, and just a little. I was trying to keep my right shoulder down a little bit too much at impact, and to make the ball go up. And I got plenty of speed. I'm tall, and I've already never had a problem with speed and weight in my golf swing and my distance. But I thought I could maybe help myself in the latter part of my career by hitting a little bit higher and taking advantage of that upward hit on the golf ball. And so I just developed this little bit of a tendency to hang back a little bit on the right side, just as a byproduct of trying to go into that direction. And I saw it. I could see it when I saw myself hit on TV or when I was working with my coach. I could see it, and I thought it was a little bit non-conventional. That's it. And I didn't ever dream that it would cause a lot of back problems, and turns out that it did lead to some issues. And so we're past that now. I figured out that I don't have to do that to hit up on the golf ball. It's one of the big surprises that I learned is that I can shift my weight all the way fully to my left side and make a full shoulder turn just like what I feel is comfortable and effective. And the TrackMan likes it even more than it did before. So that's for trying to figure it out with the human brain.
Yeah, Stu, what's your plans next year? You've obviously been on tour now for 14, 15 years, but what are your plans short and long term? Because you did recently just go back to tour school, I believe, or the last stage of tour school?
Yeah, you can. Well, in the States, you can play some of the events on the Corn Ferry Tour as rehab starts when you have it in. And so that's what I chose to do this year, because I missed 3 months of time and just didn't. I didn't play very well when I did play either. I was in Augusta this year for the first time in 5 5 years, and at 46, you just don't ever know when your last one might be. So I started developing pain back in January, but I played through it because I didn't want to miss Augusta, and I played bad, really bad. It was about the worst stretch of golf of my career, and so I didn't want to miss the Masters this year. I live in Georgia, and it's about a 2.5-hour drive for me to get to Augusta National, so it's a really special tournament for me. I didn't want to miss it, so I just I somewhat turned a blind eye to the injury that was happening, and I tried to play through it, and it was really not a smart thing to do, it turns out. But, hard to see that then. Easy to see looking back. And so I just didn't have a very good season this year, and I wanted to use the Korn Ferry events at the end of the year as some rehab starts and just test my back out and just keep on getting playing time. And it didn't really net me anything except for just reps and walking. It turns out walking is such a big deal when you miss it for 3 months and then you go back out. I think the walking is what took me the longest to get back accustomed to again. So next year I'll plan of this season. The season already started, so it's the 1920 season. I'm playing out of a category on the PGA Tour called the Minor Medical right now, and I've got about 8 tournaments, and I need to try to earn my status back. And if I don't, then I'll just fall back into my past champions category, and I still have some career exemption too that I can use for future years. So I'm not in any kind of like a dire position as far as my exemption status. I'm just playing the tournaments I need to play in and trying to play well and keep working on my game and keep looking toward the future.
Have you managed to take a look at the upcoming golf course at the RACV Royal Pines on the Gold Coast, and have you got any idea of what you're in for?
Only seeing it on the television in the past. I've seen it. I enjoy watching the tournaments down under. They show the events up here, and we're getting into the wintertime, and there's not a lot going on in the golf world in the States. So I enjoy watching the Sandbelt event, and, of course, this year is a massive year for Aussie Golf President's Cup. And so, you have to stay up late or use your DVR to record it. But I do like watching the courses. Some of my favorite courses in the world are there. I love Metropolitan when I played there. I got to play 18 holes in the match play. I lost in the first round on the 18th hole. I came all that way and played 18 holes of golf. I played Mark McNulty in the first round, and he made, like he always used to do, he made clutch par to beat me on the last hole, and I made a bogey. And found myself playing at Kingston Heath the next day because I didn't have anything else to do.
Yeah.
And it was the first time I'd ever been to the Sandbelt. The first time I ever played any of those courses. I fell in love with the look of the courses and the way the bunkers get to the edge of the greens, and just fabulous terrain.
Are you a golf?
I always like to watch.
You a golf course architect junkie?
Yeah, a little bit. I mean, I wouldn't call myself a junkie. I just get excited about great courses. I really do. And we got a handful here in States, and there's a pretty good combination of terrain down there with the sandy soil and the weather. And I always like watching the events that are on the television this time of year. So I'll be watching some President's Cup golf when I'm in New Zealand, I guess, and checking out Royal Melbourne. And I know that the golf course at the PGA is not exactly a Sandbelt course. I've seen it quite Bermuda covered on the television from what I've seen about those grainy greens.
Yeah.
And that's okay because that's the kind of grass I grew up on, and I'm used to it, and I like playing on Bermuda. And my wife's going to caddy for me, so that'll be fun. See that little relationship we've had, see how that goes. We can survive it.
The Gold Coast is Australia's version of Florida, mate, so you will feel at home.
Exactly.
Absolutely.
We were talking earlier before when we were introducing the fact that you were coming on our PGA Golf Club this morning about your win at the Open Championship, and I could not believe it's actually 10 years ago since that happened, where you're a bit of a party pooper because it looked like Tom Watson was going to win, and you sort of came from the clouds to win. What are your memories 10 years on?
Oh, well, I feel like it's 10 minutes ago.
Yeah.
None of the memories are faded, and I just feel like it was just yesterday. It's some of the memories are so cool. I mean, birdie in the 72nd hole, when I didn't know at the time that I was going to need it to get in the playoff or if I was going to need it, to win, but I just know that when you're in contention in a major championship and you birdie the 72nd hole, it just really doesn't ever hurt. Unless you have a 5-footer for eagle, then a birdie might hurt, but it was a great moment. One of my all-time most calm moments, believe it or not, under that kind of pressure. I remember I was working on a brand new putting. I would call it like my whole putting operation was brand new. I had a new routine and a new putter, new grip. I changed my putting just in the last maybe 6 tournaments before that. I'd gone from the long putter. I was a belly putter for a long time, and very successful belly putter. Had some wins with the belly putter, but at that time I was putting poorly, so I switched everything and made a major overhaul back to the short putter, and really focused on this routine because in golf it's so good to focus on the process and not the results, and we've had that preached to us, and it's the proof's in the pudding too. It works, and so come to the 7th hole, I had this 15-footer for birdie, and it was a flat putt, but with about a 20-mile-an-hour left-right wind. So as golfers, we know that's about a cup out, and it was a left-to-right break because of the wind. And I got over the ball after doing my routine, and I just didn't. I was almost had like a smile on my face. I was excited, and I backed off because I felt the wind gust or something. I backed off, and I asked my caddy to come over there, and he thought I was going to ask him to give one last read. And I said, "You remember that routine that I've been doing?" And he said, "Yeah." His name's Frank Williams. And I said, "You think I should do another one right here, or do you think I should just abandon that?" And he goes, "No, I think you should do one more right here." And I was laughing. If you look back on the coverage, you can see me when I walk into the ball in the last putt. After I talked to him, that I had this smile, like ear to ear, this grin. And I walk in doing this routine, and I just gutted this putt right in the middle. And it's so rare when you're in that moment to be so calm and relaxed. You can kind of joke around. Usually I'm sweating, blood out of my eardrum. And but I was just so relaxed. And that's one of the memories that I have is so vivid because I was enjoying the moment, and I regret actually being on the tour for so long, and I've had a lot of chances to win, and I've won lots of times, but I just didn't always enjoy the moment as much because I was kind of, if you hit a bad shot or whatever, you're hard on yourself, and those times are hard to enjoy. And the few times that I was able to really enjoy it and succeed are some of my best memories, and that was one of them.
Oh, that's a fantastic insight.
Did you feel then going into the playoff of what happened, you making a birdie, Tom Watson bogey, did you feel like that you had the upper hand? Were you confident going into that you were going in to win?
Yeah, I was supremely confident because of the way it finished. Because I finished strong, and I was in such a great frame of mind, and I saw Tom's finish. I felt like he was really out of energy with that last hole bogey. I felt like he made a poor decision on the 72nd hole approach by carrying the ball on over, and I just felt like I was going to win, and I knew that I needed to get myself prepared, and because I knew the crowd was going to be rooting for him, and like they should, the world was rooting for Tom Watson. I know that. I know they weren't necessarily, but they were rooting for Tom, and so I made sure that I was clear on that, and I had a plan, and I know it sounds really simple, but the plan I had was I wanted to go on the first hole of the playoff. It's a 4-hole aggregate at the time.
Yep.
And I wanted to be there second because I wanted Tom to perform with the crowd around when I walked up so that he could at least hear some applause from me because I thought that might be the only time he would hear any from me in the playoff.
That's amazing.
That was my plan. I need to write a book. It'll be one sentence. I wanted to get to the tee second.
Yeah, and so just finally, Stewart, to beat Tom Watson, I mean, he's such a legend in world golf, let alone American golf. Was there that feeling of wanting to be kind to a hero of yours, or were you able to shut that out knowing what you had at stake yourself? I mean, I would imagine it'd be a fair bit of a mental hurdle in a way, considering who it was.
It wasn't at all, to be honest.
Right, okay.
It was, not a hurdle whatsoever. In the battle, in the playoff, and on the last 6 or 7 holes, it wasn't that way at all. I just wanted to play my best and win and do my routines and keep joking around with my caddy and work in the process. And once the tournament was over, immediately the respect aspect kicked in. And, of course, I knew how monumental for his story of golf that was, that Tom was 59 years old and, in the thick of it in a major championship, and he was so loved by the Scottish golf fans that all along I knew that, but I was able to put that out of my mind during the tournament when I was playing golf. without any problems, none at all. But yeah, afterwards it was I was respectful, kind, just like he would have been. Just like any golfer would be, really. But what a moment that was. The world of golf and the world of sports, really. The world tuned in to watch Tom Watson win the Open that day, and it turned out they got to see Stewart Cink and figure out who the heck that was.
No, it was awesome.
Tom's won 8, mate. There's Stewart's first.
No, absolutely.
But before you go, Stuart, we've got to ask you about your famous hat tan and what you do to keep it going and keep everyone happy, because it's a laugh every time you take your hat off. I'm sure you've heard it all before.
Yeah, it's a trademark. Unfortunately, we all have sort of a trademark we're known for. You can't be known for anything. I guess a hat tan is it. But no, it's just I don't have a lot of hair up there.
Yeah. Well, we all don't in here, mate. We're all middle-aged men. That's all right.
Not my head, anyway.
My body is so confused. It only grows hair in places it's not supposed to. In places it's supposed to have hair, it doesn't have any hair.
The obvious question is, why don't you apply sunscreen? It's do you play it up now that you apply it in certain areas and leave it around that bottom half of your head?
No, I put sunscreen everywhere I need to put sunscreen on. It's just that I wear a hat, and the hat blocks the sun better than the sunscreen. If I could wear if I could wear a whole bonnet around my head, I'd probably have a nice even tan. But things like that. But I can be off. I can be off for 2 weeks and spend time up on the boat or out in the sun and get a nice even tan without a hat on, and then I can go to the range for 30 minutes and look just like that again.
You might need the floppy hat, mate.
Stuart, thank you very much.
That's what I mean.
Stuart, thank you very much for joining us. An absolute treat to be able to talk to you, particularly those reflections on winning the Open Championship. That was just awesome, and we're looking forward to seeing you playing here in Australia in a couple of weeks' time for the PGA Championship. We look forward to seeing you then.
Okay, I look forward to it too. Thanks for having me on.
So Stewart Cink joining us there from the United States, and he'll be back here in Australia for the PGA Championship in a couple of weeks on the Gold Coast. Sandy, that is amazing listening to that.
Oh, absolutely. They're so competitive for so long. I was sort of amazed at how, he's obviously done himself an injury trying to chase the young blokes.
Yeah. And then, so you get that competitive nature comes out, but I must confess, listening to him reflect back on that 2009 Open Championship, I remember being up at 3 o'clock in the morning, barracking for Tom Watson to win, barracking for the story in a sense, but how you wouldn't, if Tom Watson would have been everyone's American hero, to not be daunted by that and to actually get that game face on and say, no, I'm going to take him down. That's admirable.
Yeah, absolutely. But as we sort of spoke about earlier when we're talking about Rob Allenby and every tour player, they've got that competitive thing. They're not going to be mates with anyone just because of their history. They want to win.
Yeah. I thought that was excellent.
So Tom's got 8, mate. I'm in Stewart's. Mate, doesn't matter about the story, mate. I want to win my first. You got 8.
Absolutely.
You know what it's like.
Craig Spencer has been listening to that as he joins us now. What were your reflections on just listening to that then?
I was thinking about a young Aussie fella that was playing with Tom that day, Matt Goggin.
Yes.
Matt Goggin almost won.
He did
about
too.
that earlier.
Did you talk about that earlier?
Yeah,
I wasn't in here at that point, but it's interesting. I got to listen to Dale Lynch and Matt Goggin talk about that day, and I think it was the front 9. Which course was it at again?
Turnberry.
It was Turnberry, was it? The front 9, every hole was blowing off the left, I think it was. And interesting thing about Goggin and both Goggin and Tom Watson kind of released the club similarly. If you look at their golf swings, and Watson has got a hell of a lot better career than Goggy, but Goggy was a top 50 player, but they both had similar types of releases through the ball, where they sort of wide, strong face, wide, and were able to hit that shot against the left-right wind all the way on the front 9. So.
Now, I'm going to embarrass you now,
Yep.
because we're talking about Stewart Cink taking down Tom Watson. You took down Greg Norman.
Yeah.
What was that? And I know you've told this story many times, but just doing that and not having to concentrate on just hitting that white golf ball and not worrying about who actually you are playing with. What was that like?
I think it's a great question because I started playing basketball this year. In my mid-40s, I'm playing basketball.
Wait for the calf
Here we
injury,
go.
boys.
Yeah. Haven't done an ankle yet. No, sorry. I've been playing for nearly 2 years. And BJ, you'll appreciate the differences. I struggle with the team, I guess. There's so much reliance on chemistry. There's so much reliance on being, it's not up to you a lot of the time. And what I love about golf is that, I think Stewart Cink was saying there, is he can go into this cocoon of a process-based mental state, if you like, where it's just him and he goes through the process and nothing else or no one else matters. He lets his caddy come in to give him a little bit of... And that's how I felt that day playing against Greg Norman. And it's a funny thing that at the start, the front nine, probably the first 5 holes, the crowd were definitely pro-Norman. But as I showed that I wasn't going to go away, it really started to even out. And by the back nine, I think it was almost coming across to the, this young kid might actually get up and beat his hero, if you like, or everyone's hero. So it's interesting golf, though. You don't have to be any particular type of competitor. You just have to be able to control what you're doing, and it might be good enough to beat anyone on their day. And for Stewart Cink, it was good enough. And for me that day, it was good enough to beat the great Greg Norman.
So I played with a friend at Huntingdale last week.
Yep.
And it comes up, Craig Spence did this. And I remember it like it was yesterday. For you, is it something that you often think about when you're trying to get to sleep at night, or is it something now that if I did it, I would be? So I just want to know from the professionals what happens.
I think I get asked about it all the time, which I'm surprised, like 20 years later, and there wouldn't be a week, certainly not a week, maybe most days, where someone will mention it in some regard, which surprises me. But I think the other thing is how much my parents still get a kick out of it. Like they regularly still watch it. I think they're still not sure who's going to win sometimes.
Is that on a VCR?
No. I recently acquired the actual what's the word for when they files? Yeah. So it's finally not started on VHS. They wore that out and destroyed the tape. We got it onto disc. That got destroyed within a year or so.
Yeah.
And now they've got a file of all 4 days.
Right.
That won't ever get worn out, I'm told.
Mate, I'm just picturing your mum and dad at home. What are we going to watch on telly tonight?
Let's go with it.
I watch it every day.
I've got to get home from bingo to watch my son play. We've got to watch it live.
I've got a feeling that they still watch it probably almost weekly.
Have you got siblings that hate you, mate?
Yeah, I think they did. I think they were over it, to be honest. And anyway, but
so you didn't answer his question. Do you think about it every night before you go to bed?
I don't. I think of other things.
I would. That's probably fair enough too. Now, this is probably the longest episode we've ever done, so apologies for those that thinking this is going too long, but there's been so much to talk about. Now, we've got Sandy Jamieson and Craig Spence together. Now, I think that's pretty cool because two great golf coaching minds. So you're under a bit of pressure again this week.
I am.
What's the topic?
I might bring Sandy in on this.
Yes, definitely.
Right? So this is almost the holy grail of tips, I reckon.
Oh, okay.
All right, Sandy. But I might need your help.
Sandy's got a suspicious look on his face.
This tip.
All have.
What do you think is the most common? The first thing people come to a golf lesson say they want.
Consistency.
Consistency is number 1. What's number 2?
Backspin 3 metres.
No.
Length.
I just need 20 metres of distance, right?
I tell them hit it twice, mate.
Right? If you can get me 20 metres, I can beat all my mates. I'll be, and you sort of go, all right, you can't be too harsh, but in the back of your mind you say, this is not as easy as you think it is. Well, today we're going to have a bit of fun with it.
Okay.
Because in reality, to build 20 metres distance is about building a better golf swing over time. It's a hard thing to do. But there are things, Sandy, I'm going to throw to you. If you stand up in a wide open par 5 downwind and you go, okay, it's Sandy's go time, right? Right?
Just like that too. That's what you
absolutely.
Probably
It's go time. I'm remembering that 6-9 I hit.
All right. What things would you do to say, all right, it's downwind, wide open, there's no risk, it's absolute go time. What things do you do to get that extra 10, 20 metres of distance. Par 5, come on.
Oh, look, for me, I'm going to tee it up a little higher.
Okay.
And it's going to sound... I just try and hit the middle of the club face.
Yeah, good.
That's my number one thing. I just got to try and hit the middle of the face.
Yep. BJ?
I'm a little bit wide in the stance, teed up a bit, but I try and make a bigger shoulder turn, but I don't know if I am, but I still try and stay smooth, because the harder you try and hit it, generally goes shorter. So find the middle of the club.
You can ask me.
Adam? Sorry.
I hit it further.
What are you playing off now?
Further than BJ.
Well, you're getting better every week.
Yeah, that's right. Longer backswing.
Yeah.
And hit it harder.
Yeah. All right. Well, a lot of people don't know how to hit it harder. They don't know when to hit it harder, right? They actually increase their speed in the wrong spots, and they get bigger and they mishit it more, and they actually lose distance, right? So here's some tips that I think will help.
Yep, this is good.
But this is for that downwind par 5 hole. You're not going to do it off the first where there's bunkers both sides.
No, I'll do it off
this
the
is
first.
That once or twice around where you need an extra 10 metres, all right? And that's how pros would use it too. All right, first of all, like the boy said, widen your stance. But here's something that people don't do, is you want to get forward in your stance, meaning your posture wants to be forward over your toes. So if you imagine you're in an athletic, explosive position, right? So you're ready to almost jump off the ground. Now that's something a lot of people don't do. They widen and they go back on their heels too much, right? So you get into an explosive stance, nice and wide. Tee it forward and tee it high so you can hit up on it, especially if it's downwind, obviously. You want to get that little bit of launch, don't you, Sandy?
Absolutely.
All right, here's one that could create a bit of debate. All right. Before I get to that, add a bit of spine angle as well. You want to have your right shoulder a little bit lower. Again, you're setting up to launch it. Now, here's something I do. I de-loft the driver a little bit. I put it forward. I push my hands forward, which de-lofts the driver a bit, and I try to hit up on it. So, theoretically, I'm creating launch by hitting up on it, but the de-lofting takes a bit of the spin off. Do you ever do that, Sandy?
Yeah, I know exactly what you're saying. It's almost feeling like a topspin tennis shot.
Yeah, like a topspin tennis shot. You'd push your hands forward and hit it up with the face a bit of de-loft. That's not easy to do, but we're not here to do things that are easy. We're here to do things that are hard, right?
We're here to express ourselves as golfers.
That's a JFK line almost, isn't it?
Yeah, it's good.
All right, so club face, hands forward, de-loft it and hit up on it a little bit. All right, now we're going to get into a couple of little drills you can do, right? There's a great drill called the Whoosh Drill, right? And this is a good one for people who don't know how to create speed at the bottom of the swing. But you can either turn your club upside down or grab one of those, those little alignment sticks. Adam, have you got any of those in your golf bag?
I use broken clubs for my alignment sticks.
And you create new ones every day.
That's right.
If you haven't got one, I'm sure one of the guys in your group's got one, or just turn the club upside down. And I want you to do a swing with just one or two hands, doesn't matter. But you want to listen for when the shaft swings through the air, where is the whoosh? Where does the whoosh start? For a lot of people, the whoosh will start too early on the downswing, which means you're creating speed up near your top of the swing. You want to start to create speed as late as you can, almost down where the ball is. So you're whipping this whoosh through and keep going. Do about 5 or 10 on one side and then turn around and do it the other side, almost as a left-hander. But just try and increase that whoosh sound as much as you possibly can. And that'll help you understand where to create the speed, how to create the speed, and how relaxed your arms and hands need to be to do it. Do you ever teach that drill at all, Sandy?
I do a lot of continual swing drills, so you back forward, back forward, just to try and create some motion and timing.
I love that drill, probably one of the most common ones I use. But some people struggle with that the synchronization of that, don't they? In that case, it is hard to build speed. But, whoosh drill. So you want to create as much speed as you can right down and make it. And as you get faster, it'll get louder. So if you can just hear it, you're not going very fast. If you start to clearly hear it, you're starting to increase speed. So it's your own track
That makes perfect sense,
Yep. So whoosh drill. And then my last little drill to help you create. A lot of people, when they're coming down, they lose speed because as the club's coming down, they're going backwards. Their body's almost going backwards onto their right leg. And as they hit the ball, their weight would be on their back leg. and they'd be spinning out of it a little bit. It's a bit sort of like a reverse pivot through the ball. So if we imagine a baseball pitcher,
Stewart Cink was talking about that. His whole back.
Exactly. So a baseball pitcher would stand at the top of the mound, and as he would be coming to release the ball, he would be stepping forward down the mound. All the pressure would go into his front foot, and he would release the speed. So you can do those stepping drills with a golf club in your hand. You can have your feet together, swing up. As you start to want to come down, you step forward and fire that club as fast as you can. So you're using your weight and pressure going forward to create speed and sound and whoosh, right?
Yep.
So tips again there, Adam. I'll go back through them. Widen your stance. Weight forward on your toes like you're ready to jump.
Yep.
All right. Tee it forward, higher, and de-loft the club face a little bit and hit up on it. So there's already 5 tips. Increase the size of your arc. I've just thrown that one in as another. That's number 6. Add a whoosh drill and add a stepping forward drill. Is that too much for the average punter, do you reckon?
I think it's about half what they normally think about. At least there's some sort of a system.
All right, so that all makes perfect sense. I visualise it all. And then I'll tell the parents at the primary school at pick up about the new tip for the day. I want you to add one, Sandy. Put you on the
Put me on the hammer.
Yeah.
Oh, look, as I sort of mentioned with my one club thing, I've got that sweet spot indicated in the middle. I think a lot of people try and hit it harder before they can catch it in the middle of the club face. Don't forget, until you can catch it in the middle of the club face, swinging harder isn't going to do much. But if you're catching in the middle of the club face, all those drills Spency's given you, spot on. But if you're looking down at that club face and you're seeing little T marks in the heel and the toe up the top, I wouldn't be swinging harder just yet.
But you got to have a bit of fun.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
And as we said, on that par 5 downwind where you want to have a go, you got to have something to focus on. But yeah, you're right. The greatest way to increase speed, without question, is hit it in the centre of the face because it'll add about 10%. These are just side things you can work on when you want to have a crack.
Oh yeah, but Spency, I'm an old bloke, so I'm still thinking in the middle of the face. These young blokes turning up without the shirts on at the driving range.
Yeah, true. They can go.
So I've got all these questions I've got for you, which I haven't got time for this week, so we're going to have to do it next week. So this is almost like a double episode type bumper edition sort of thing. We've had a big chat today, but I've got some very interesting questions for you. That one particularly one, which is kind of related to this one, but we'll leave it for next week.
All right.
We know where to find you at the Albert Park driving range if people want to get in touch and have a lesson with you.
Yep.
But I want to give you an opportunity, Sandy, for people that want to have a lesson with yourself as well, because you're now not at Commonwealth. How do they go about it?
Look, I'm at Oakley Public Golf Course. There hasn't been a golf pro there for 20 years. People don't know where it is. It's 2 Park Road, Chadstone. My main focus these days, beginner golfers. I'll take a group of 4 beginners out there or one. It's $100 for the group, the coach, the round of golf, and the equipment.
Fantastic.
So you'll be on the course within 15 minutes of never picking up a golf club before.
All right. So that's we've talked about the one club. I really like that as well. So, but it's been great to have you in here, Sandy. I know you got so much respect in the world of golf to have you in for one of our podcasts. So we've really appreciated it.
Absolutely loved it. Thanks, guys.
And thank you, BJ.
Thanks, mate.
We'll do it next week. So it's Australian Open week this week. Next week.
Bit to talk about next week.
Yeah, next week we'll have the President's Cup. So we're right in the sweet. We'll talk about sweet spot. We're right in the sweet spot of the Australian golf season. I hope you've stayed right to the end. We'll catch you next week.